with an army of reputedly 60,000 men. So they got a big fleet. The other records say 37,000. They besieged Faris under the Lady Saint Genevieve, Guinevere. And there's a mosaic in the Modena Cathedral, about 1100, showing the siege of Paris by Arthur and his men, and that is Arthur won. Gratian, the Emperor of Rome, comes up and they fight at Soissons. Our records say the Battle of Sassy at Soissons, 12 miles south of Paris, and Gratian is defeated by our lad Arthur, and he chases him down to Lyons, invites him to a supper and kills him. So Magnus becomes Emperor of the West. Arthur proceeds to Switzerland and he goes down onto the cathedral to Italy. In Taranto there's a mosaic of him riding on a goat. Crossed over the Balkans. He fought two huge battles then with the Emperor of the East, Theodosius. One at Poetovio and the other at Sisica on the Sika River. Well recorded. Right? Well, the reason I'm going into this a little bit is that we're going to get someone in a minute. He comes back to the UK because Magnus gets surprised that Ravenna and is killed. One of his half-brothers is Victor, who was the Augustus of Gaul in Paris. He gets killed. Apparently comes back to the UK. And he has sons and presumably daughters. In the year 406, which is not long after this 383 to 388 effort, 20 years, the Vandal Confederation invaded Gaul. The Sueves, the Alans and the Vandals, and they smashed up Gaul, which is why the Vandals gave their name to vandalism. Roman army was cut to pieces, couldn't do anything with them. British wanted to keep them away from the coast, so they elected Constantine, a cousin of Arthur, to be king. And this war king takes the British army, which doesn't exist according to the English, across to English academics, across to Gaul, and they promptly smashed up the Vandals, the Sueves and the Alans. And they penned them in south of France against the Pyrenees, and Geraint the general blocked the passes of the Pyrenees. Honorius is in Rome, biting his fingernails, don't know what to do. The British king sat in Treves, and he didn't know what to do. And his generals were saying, "Get after Honorius, get him, you know, go kill him." And there was murder. He was dithering. Anyway, Alaric the Goth saw the opportunity, so he invades Italy. And did he cause havoc? He ransacked every city, including Rome, you see. Now, he passes by Rome and he's heading south. Honorius writes a letter. And the letter is to the citizens of the city of Rhegium in the province of Bruttium, which is the toe of Italy. And he says, Alaric's on his way, he's coming, and there's nothing I can do, you're on your own. Do you know the English academics in Oxford, Cambridge, and that have persuaded people for hundreds of years that Honorius writes this letter to Britain and tells the helpless British, you're on your own? Hang about, the British king is running France and Britain and has just kicked the daylights out of these big Germans. And you'll see that in book after book, these poor helpless British, dependent on the Romans, get a letter from Honorius. It did read Limpidorius and Zosimus, the historians. The letter didn't come to Britain, it went to the toe of Italy. You're on your own, Alaric's coming. Yeah. Have they lied to us? Because that is a blatant lie. And you can read it in many books. We weren't helpless at all. I digress. Okay. Arthur I has a son, Tathal, Theodore. He has a son, Teuthrin the Subtle, who's left his name on a font, right? And Teuthrin the Subtle has a son, Teithfald, who is Theodosius, right? Teithfald becomes king of Britain after the great massacre which killed most of the royal family. He becomes king. His son is Chudric, King Theodoric. He's killed in the fighting at the ford of Tintern, as in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and in the Welsh records, in 508. Well, he's severely wounded. They took him away. He wanted to be buried on Echny, an island in Cardiff Bay, and it was at Tintern. They brought him down the River Wye, couldn't go far. He's on a cart being drawn, and they got to a well, and he died there. That is still Theod is well, and there's a plaque there saying this is where he died. He's Arthur II's grandfather. He's buried in the church nearby. They just put him down and they built a church over him. Been excavated in 1618 and 1617, I think, and 1881. There's a skeleton with a big wound in the skull. So he's there. Now, if you can find Arthur's grandfather, it'd be a bit odd if you can't find him. You see where is he going? Arthur's father was found in Meirig, which is Morris. We know where he's buried. It's clearly stated. Then you come to Arthur II, this mysterious, non-existent king. Do you know there are more accounts of his grave and burial than you could fill a sack with? It's the most glorious, well-known, well-advertised funeral you ever heard of in the Dark Ages. All 182 mayors of the different areas of Britain, they used to have mayors attend. He's kept in a cave while they're digging, getting everything ready. You go to the cave. There are two accounts there, one in Nennius, one in the Knife of it. Boat comes up the Owenny River, body's in the boat, there's a stone on it. They take the body out of the boat, they put it in the cave. You go in that cave, there's a big pit, and it's very hard rock. It's cut about 11 feet long, about 3 or 4 feet wide, 4 feet deep. That's where they put him while they're making ready. There's actually an inscription on the wall covered with stalagmite saying, this is where he is. It is there. And that was found accidentally by Colin Games and Blair Urquhart, two filmmakers. They panned across the wall, you see, looking for spiders. There's loads of strange, rare spiders there. And they got this inscription. Anyway, so we know all about Arthur first, we know all about Arthur second. The only mystery is why they're a mystery. I don't know. There's no mystery at all. Now, the other thing they'll tell you is, this Geoffrey Ash, the Canadian, was into this. I have searched every map and every part of Britain, and I cannot find the Battle of Baden site, famous battle, and I can't find the Battle of Camlan. Can't find it anywhere. That's a bit odd, really, because if you've got an Ordnance Survey map, the government tells them, you'll find the army gathering ground is still there, down at Ardmore, and the army gathers at noon. The young man drives across the water to join the king, and he doesn't recognise the king, so he splashes him in water, gets a whack for that. And these stories are there, and they decide at 9 o'clock they'll go up to Baden for the battle. The road going up the Maesteg Valley is Ford the Gyfraith, road with the tumult. And you get there, and on the Ordnance Survey map it says Mynydd Baden, Baden Mountain. Can't find it. The battle area, I went to Mrs. Skiffis who owned the farm. I said, do you mind if I have a look around it? She said, well, you can go anyway because there's a right of way through it. I said, well, I'd like to walk all around it, you know, it's your land. Oh, yeah. Said, big battle up there after the Romans, really big battle up there. Yeah, yeah. The fields are named Moise Cad Lower, field of battle area. You know, and it's called Mynydd Baden. And there's the Dell of Chastisement, and the local blacksmith remembered all the local folklore in about 1870, so he wrote a little book and drew diagrams to preserve it, of where the army was stationed and how they did it, because it had been passed down the centuries. Now, apparently, they can't find the Battle of Camlan, none of them. They don't know where Camlan is. It's two battles, actually. Arthur brings the army back from Brittany, going to land at Longbourth. Where's Longbourth? Nobody knows. West Wales, nice big sandy beach. You could bring 50, 60 ships in together, right? It's like a D-Day battle, because it's described in the epic poetry like a D-Day battle in the surf, you know? And the Prince Geraint gets mortally injured. That's the sad bit. The Arthur gets his army ashore. The farm on the promontory there is called Longbourth Farm. There's the Prince Bledry is killed in the fighting. Well, just a mile inland in the field there's a big stone, it's got Bledry written on it. 3 miles inland, Geraint takes 3 days to die. They send to Brittany for a coffin for him. There's Bathe Geraint Farm, grave of Geraint Farm. And it's a whacking big grave mound. And I had to find it, you know. If you go inland and say, where's the old main road going